Marbles 2.0. Why digital asset NFTs can make playing video games more exciting for players and keep the industry growing.
Gentlemen, welcome to AIBC. I'd like to kickstart off the panel by just going down the row, a little bit about yourself and 3 words describing the company that you work for, or that you own as well.
Okay. So we go this way. My name is Kristijan. I come from Croatia, in the space from 2014. First involved into wallets development, mining and custodian services, then smart contract development and audits, and now currently VP partner in one of the crypto funds. And I have a company owned and founded by me, where we can say like we are blockchain tech accelerator. We focus on elevating the models in tech to support business models in Web3 or decentralized economy.
That's really cool, thank you. Yeah.
My name is Daniel. I first got involved in crypto in 2019 as a content creator with AMMs, and then I recently became a business developer with Zappy, which is a data monetization app, 3 words. And yeah.
Good, 3 words.
3 words.
Nice.
I do appreciate that.
So I'm Toni. I head up investor relations and partnerships at Games for a Living. We do blockchain infrastructure for video games and first-party content.
My name is Jorge Sebastiano. I'm a co-founder of EcoX, which is an accelerator for startups and blockchain out of Dubai, but I also invest in various startups in the gaming sector as well.
Okay, gentlemen, so I'm going to change the panel up a bit. So I have 3 topics of questions, and I want you to raise your hand if you want to answer it as well. I'll choose 2 people to answer it, as we have limited time. Now, the topics, first off, will be incentivization for users. Then the next will be creating an NFT per a celebrity, for example, a football player for FIFA. All right. And then the next one will be skins and items. How can they be tokenized? So, who wants to go for number 1? Who wants to go for number 2? I know that you wanted that one, right? Oh no, you wanted the 3rd one. Yeah. 2? All right. Okay, then I'll have a final question for you that will be even more difficult.
I want first and third one. Something I know.
Okay, don't be demanding, all right?
Okay.
Alrighty, so you want the first one you said. So our topic is why digital NFTs make playing video games more exciting for players. How do you think the power to the users can be increased? For example, in-game items and skins can be tokenized, enabling players to sell individual digital commodities rather than sell their entire gaming account. How would NFTs change that? It's a question to both of you.
Okay, so in my opinion, for that we don't need NFTs. That's what most people probably in this conference do not understand, that NFTs are not something what you need to tokenize the items. Everything what can be stored on a blockchain is just data. So if you connect a user wallet through the hash to the information on the chain, NFTs are obsolete. So currently they are total overhead for the gaming industry, but people are pushing it as a trend. From the manner of perspective and incentivizing players to collect those kind of data and expose their items to the secondary markets instead of selling the accounts, that's something definitely what needs to be done. The problem here is that every game studio, every gaming provider can choose their own technology of choice. So interoperability in that manner requires some kind of, let's say, network or authority or whatever to control the items flowing from the chain to chain or from the market to market. That can be solved also if you have just let's say, all data minted on some, it doesn't need to be a public chain. It can be just a distributed ledger from where we actually consume the items data and then just transact through the public layers. That's how I see the whole solution, you know. Because at the moment we don't have real Web3 games. We must be sure that we are just selling the monkey business, the Bored Ape Club, you know, in the games. There is no real Web3 game. I saw that. I didn't find any in a market.
Opinion?
I think, you know, in spite of that, there is, from a user experience perspective, there's merit in having NFTs that are fully interoperable in the sense that you can be, let's say, horse racing with your horse NFT on Pegaxi in the morning, and then later in the day taking that same horse out for a stroll in the sandbox, walking past the adverts and so on. And once you own the NFT, you know, it belongs to you and not the game, and it's controlled by you and not the game. So I do think that will, you know, help video game makers enable players to own their assets and actually take them onto other platforms. And it'll be a more collaborative development space for gaming on that basis, in that the NFTs you own on one platform are totally fine to be used on another. So
then, this is my question to you now. How can you ensure that the NFT via one pixel will not be changed, and then the certificate for that one NFT is yours forever? For example, the horse. If the horse's color is changed a tiny bit of the NFT.
The NFT itself, well, so NFTs are immutable, right? So you can't, most of them you can't change, but you're starting to see certain tech where essentially at an infrastructure level you can like start merging like NFTs together. One of the things that we're building with our infrastructure, like as opposed to say like Immutable X, where you can't add, I guess, this idea of like time into your NFTs and sort of upgrading them. Some of the contracts you're starting to see, or some of the stuff that we're trying to develop, essentially means that you can merge like NFTs together, right? Now that opens a whole sort of different dynamic within games, because you can start adding social elements that don't currently exist within games. So if you imagine that I'm trying to get to the highest level, right, and let's say a match 3 like clicker game, and I'm trying to craft. We have a game that you essentially have to try and craft your NFT jewels. It's currently in development, but you need other players and their NFTs to be able to create this bigger NFT, right? So all that is driving social interactions, and obviously for us, like a marketplace business model underneath that. But yeah, I think NFTs have had a very bad rep because of like their lack of utility, but you're starting to see very interesting use cases coming through. But it's very early days. In the same way that Web3 gaming is still like untested business models, and it's going to take a very long time to crack it.
And on to incentivization of gaming. Free content and actual tokenized rewards for completing certain games or levels. Free stuff always attracts people, right? We all love free stuff. Especially when the rewards have real application value, such as USDC or Ether, which they can spend and use within the entire Web3 ecosystem. What are your thoughts upon that?
When we talk about specifically NFTs, NFTs are part of Web 3.0. Many of the players are actually still today in Web 2.0, so we have to actually build a proper bridge between the two worlds. Most of the games that exist today in Web 3.0 are still experimenting, but definitely NFT is a technology that helps you drive affinity and create a much better community. Now, one is to remember that if we go back a long time ago, even in the days of Mt. Gox, which was one of the first crypto exchanges that was created quite some time ago, people used to trade their gaming assets in Mt. Gox for a few pennies when Bitcoin was not very valuable at the time. So the model for valuing the assets that are created or earned in games already exists for some time. NFT just actually takes it to another level by standardizing it, by giving it a true relationship that you can monetize. Now that monetization, of course, has to do with a lot of the community building aspect, but as well as the liquidity as it exists in exchange. So if you don't have that liquidity and that community, then the value of that asset can quite easily depreciate to almost nothing.
See you shaking your head. Do you have any questions?
I can comment on some things here. I agree that NFTs are part of the games, but they are not. People need to forget NFTs are smart contract guys. So everything what you develop and put on the chain can be non-fungible if you do that kind of logic. NFTs are currently just a trend, and it can be used for, let's say, some kind of certification-based, depends on the secondary market of the game itself. But let's say that like this: you have a quest, okay? So from point A to point B, you need to do some things in the game. All that can be generated as a storyline of that quest and stored on the chain, and that then can be used to generate the NFT at the end of the quest. So then you have a real trace that this guy really played the game the way we proposed. Regarding the changing of the NFT, it's a fingerprint algorithm, can be used anytime when you do some changes. The fingerprint hash is being also updated, so that's how you can prevent tiny pixel change,
That's a really good point of view, and also thank you for saying that. Going back to you, I wanted to ask you, because you said something amongst sharing NFTs, creating a community of NFTs. Now, do you see that becoming, for example, let's take FIFA, the game, and let's have every football player become an NFT as a card, okay? And then the fan club can invest into the card, and then inextricably, then the football player in real life actually grows also via the basis of his NFT. Do you see that happening, or what do you think about that?
I think that when it comes to games like FIFA, you're dealing with like licensing, and I think that becomes much more complicated than when it comes to NFTs that are from like a virtual world that you've created as the game studio. I think that when it comes to then property rights of how that is distributed, that could happen down the line. But I think focusing on how that can be applicable to something like FIFA or like an NHL, NFL game, it's way too early to be considering that. I think the focus should be very much more on NFTs and sort of trying to explore use cases for IP that actually you can own and you can control, as opposed to having to deal with that side of it. Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah. Of course, go ahead.
I agree with you. FIFA, like Formula One and many other sports, are highly regulated, and the IP is owned in a very specific way. However, there's quite a few projects that have managed to somehow work around that, and there's a few of them that I can definitely mention. One is called World Cup Apes. What they did is they take the FIFA players and they turn them into apes, and then they actually make quite unique NFTs that are a little bit funny. The second one is Payfoot, which actually has to do with monetization of things like T-shirts, caps, or attendance at games. So they have stayed outside of doing that. I've also had a third case that has nothing to do with FIFA, which is Bitflix, which is about films. What they did is they concentrated on the content that is external to the film. So it means like interviews or behind the scenes filming. So it depends. You have to be a bit creative to be able to monetize the content in an intelligent way.
So do you think that means that it's basically, you would have to create a fan base, you would have to create a community around the whole entire NFT in order for it to grow and in order for it to have people actually engage? And that's also what we're talking about today. Question one. And then question two, do you think NFTs should also come in a physical format then, once a person buys them?
Well, I think that the fan base already exists. Certainly if you're talking about FIFA, there's no shortage of people who will want to own a particular NFT pertaining to one particular player. Obviously that's not to disregard the issues with licensing, but let's say in an ideal world, those are overcome, and it is possible for every player of FIFA to own either the whole token belonging to Cristiano Ronaldo or a share of it. I can see that being generating a very competitive and attractive environment and a new way to engage with FIFA. And your second question, sorry.
Do you think, well, you can't physically request Ronaldo, unfortunately, that we all know. But do you think NFTs should be available to the public also as physical ones? And maybe the NFTs can come with if, for example, a community is investing in one NFT, then just the physical NFT comes in a slightly like number 1 or 2 number or something like that. What do you think about that? Do you think NFTs should be physical?
Yeah, potentially you can have a physical representation of the on-chain asset as well, and that's just further proof of your ownership of it. Obviously, it doesn't have the same kind of immutability protection as an NFT on-chain, but I can see there being a market for the physical ownership of something representing an NFT as well.
Yeah, there's some good examples that exist today. For example, in the case of baseball or others, there's autographed bats or tickets from previous events, autographed T-shirts. So it's not the player themselves, but it's something related to the game. So, and that's actually the physical asset. So you can own both the NFT, which is the digital representation, but you can also own the physical asset that is associated with that.
So we have 4 minutes now, and I want to ask the whole entire crowd, who has bought an NFT? Put your hand up. So then I would like to finish it off by you lovely gentlemen giving everyone here who hasn't bought an NFT a reason why, and give also advice to why not to buy an NFT.
We go this way. Okay, so in my opinion, I think NFTs are great for the artist industry, and I saw one real example in Berlin where a lot of artists came under one roof, created abstract art, and then created a VR room so that people can attend, look at their art, and they actually share the revenue in a gallery with the artist. So NFTs can empower a lot of industries, and that's definitely something what you guys should take a look, not just in the art business, but also everything what gives you some royalties or leverage some rights on something.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to buying NFT art, trust your instinct. If you think this is going to be valuable, you are the market because you're some of the earliest adopters of NFTs. So whatever you think could be valuable, if you can see a use case for it, you're probably right. And don't look at what it's going to be worth tomorrow. Look, long term, is there a use case for this NFT? Or is it just a monkey that might be worth $500 million for no apparent reason tomorrow? Those I would stay away from.
From a person that doesn't have any knowledge about NFTs, dumb it down for us a tiny bit. Why and why not?
Why you shouldn't speculate purely on the value of NFTs in the short term, because often the most ferocious speculative bubbles are not really based on a use case. Why you should spend some time looking at what this NFT will allow you to do, such as the example that Kristijan gave. That's a clear value proposition there in the NFT. And if you think that's valuable, you're probably right, because you've all come from different industries that are just starting to make the transition into Web3 and starting to tokenize parts of their product offering in whatever way possible. And yeah, there's no reason why you would be wrong in terms of speculating on something with a proper use case.
So, in my opinion, I guess, unless you like investing in art.
Why are NFTs good and why not? Simple.
Yeah. So
not necessarily art. I know that you're.
Well, as in the NFTs that don't have any utility, like an art is obviously like a speculative market. If you understand how that market works and you feel like
What about in games?
But in games specifically, well, I think there are use case like there are NFTs that will have intrinsic value, right? If someone's been playing, let's take the example of like 2 rocks, right? If we have 2 rocks that are identical, you can't really differentiate them in terms of value, right? But if I tell you that one of them has got like someone spent ages like going to the moon with it and come back with it and going all around the world, right? That one sort of has a little bit more value, right? Because also essentially someone's been dedicating time and money, right, to that rock, let's say, in an abstract way, right? If you think about NFTs in that way, well then NFTs in games, for example, where you've spent loads of time and small like microtransactions building up that NFT, then that NFT does have some form of intrinsic value. Now, you can then essentially speculate, okay, well, I guess you could sum the total of the amount that you spent in microtransactions to get to that, that's the base amount, and then the time that you spent, I guess, is where you can speculate on. So, yeah, there are some NFTs that will definitely start, that will start becoming more apparent in the future, I think.
All right.
I believe NFTs introduce a whole new mechanism of establishing a relationship between somebody who's a creator of content and the people who consume that content. Now, it doesn't have to be art. It could be a book, could be a video, could be a picture, and many others. So that will have value if there is a community that believes in that value. If that community is not there, then obviously it becomes worthless. Not every NFT has value. I'll give you an example. One is an NFT of a university degree. You cannot sell your university degree to somebody else, but it has value that is kind of saying it's an authentic one instead of a false one. On the downside of NFTs, we're still in the early days, so there's a lot of problems associated with them. I'll just highlight one or two very quickly. One is if you don't have community, is the example of the guy who bought the first tweet and he wanted to make millions of dollars, but he ended up falling on his face because there was no community behind that NFT. The second one has to do more with the technology, and the example would be, for example, if you buy something on some platforms like, for example, OpenSea, because it's not integrated into the blockchain, you think you own the content, but the content is somewhere else. I think we need to fix that thing in which the NFT and the content are actually in the same blockchain and unified together. Until that is done, we still have a long way to go, because you might think you own something, but it's not there when you come to look or show for it.
That's a really good life lesson for all of us, I think, too. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I would like to finish off by you just saying your name and your company again. And thank you so much for the audience for listening to us.
Okay, Kristijan, okay, do you clap or I can go? Kristijan, Glibo, Croatia, Beyondi is the name of the company, okay?
I'm Daniel Nayrouz, and this is Zappy. Zappy is the name of the company.
And I'm Toni Morales, and the company's called G4AL.
I'm Jorge Sebastiano, but sometimes people call me Jorge, and the company is called EcoX, which stands for Ecosystem Connections.
I'm Lexie Kolossov. Thank you so much for your time.